So it says it's setting it up. I don't know if we're actually live because now it's saying we're live. So, all right, I think we're good. What's going on, guys? This is Chris and with my co-host JP for another episode of the Success Agent Podcast, where our goal is to help automate as much as possible and help you make as much money as possible with your real estate business. I really butchered that intro. Today we're talking about a pretty important topic, something that I just had to go through, JP just went through, and I know a lot of people go through all the time. I think it's like every 2 years or something, but that's choosing a brokerage and one that you're hopefully going to stick with. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables that you have to look into, and we're going to try to cover those and help you take a step back at what you're looking at and just make an informed decision. So you're not just like rushing into something. So as I've already mentioned before, I'm a newer agent. I just got my license November and I chose EXP. I knew I was going to choose EXP for several reasons, and we'll kind of get into that. And JP made a switch from Coldwell Banker to EXP. That was this month, right? Or was that in November as well?
End of last month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, the start of this month.
Yeah. So there's a ton of different things you have to look at. For me, it was a little bit more clear because I wasn't leaving a different brokerage. I was just starting fresh. And I've also been in the real estate technology side of things for just over 2 years now. JP is a little bit different. He's an active agent. He's constantly producing, selling homes, and he had some more variables to look at. And he has a few tools that he used as well, which we'll give to you guys for free. So first off, what made you want to make the jump from Coldwell Banker to EXP?
Well, let's go back to the very beginning first.
Okay.
When you're out there looking for a brokerage, something that I didn't do when I got in the business was I knew somebody that was already in the business, and I made the decision to just reach out to them, interview them.
Yeah.
And I think more times than not, the real estate business is probably a little bit different in terms of the way that you look for a brokerage. The way you, as a real estate agent, you're basically a single business. You're an independent contractor. You are your own business from the day you get your license. And so but basically what you're doing then is you're going out and you're interviewing different brokerages. Mm-hmm. It's different in this world than it is in the traditional sense because,
right.
You're putting an application in and then the business is interviewing you. Whereas in the real estate business, you're out there interviewing brokerages.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and you're interviewing them saying, okay, is this going to be the right fit for me? Because in the traditional sense, most brokerages just want bodies. They just want people to come on. They just want as many people to come on. And then, and then basically it's a matter of, it's a numbers thing,
Mm-hmm.
The more agents you bring on, eventually you're going to get some rock stars, and then the rock stars end up staying and the ones that aren't doing very well end up leaving. So when you're out there looking for a brokerage, then you want to have a series of questions and some investigating that you want to do, even prior to setting up an appointment with the broker of that particular brokerage.
Right.
So a few things you want to do is you want to make sure that they have good training, because in a lot of senses, there's everything comes down to splits. This split, that split, what's the split? What do I get for the split that I'm going to provide for the brokerage? What am I getting for the money that I'm going to be, spending? Mm-hmm. And so training, technology, follow-up, accountability, planning, all of these different things to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and that the brokerage is providing you with a good service.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to want to make sure that, all of these tools that are going to help you become successful are in place. So one of the things is, you don't want to hear well, it's online, because I think there's two people out there. There's online people that are really good, and then there's face to face. And in my opinion, it's a blend of both.
Yeah.
I just think that there's just some people that just can't sit in front of a computer for an hour to 2 hours trying to absorb information because it's not as interactive as it could be. There's just plenty of reasons that kind of make it a little bit disconnected. Yeah. And so there's that. And then you want to also interview other people that are at the brokerage that you're considering to make sure that it's going to be that what is being presented is actually unfolding into reality, you know, because, you know, a lot of times you'll hear what you want to hear, but then when push comes to shove, you know, those things might not actually play out, you know, so you want to talk to some other people, you know, and a lot of times you don't want to always call the top producer at that particular brokerage because, you know, their perception of reality is different than somebody that's brand new, you know? Yeah. And so you want to make sure that those people that are brand new or have only been there about a year, that those promises, if you will, actually have been played out. Right. So just going back to my story. So, you know, I started at a brokerage because I interviewed somebody. I was there for a while, and then we got bought out. And then I ended up at Coldwell Banker. And then I was there for 7 years, almost 8 years. Actually, yeah, almost 8 years. And, you know, just something that I'd been wrestling with for quite a while is the future of real estate as teams. And so, you know, my thought was, okay, I've got to find a platform that's conducive to teams because I'm in a small town. So where I'm at, you know, a lot of these concepts and the things that the way that we do real estate up here is just way more old school than kind of the way that the rest of the United States is kind of headed towards. Mm-hmm. You know, I think the days of big box brokerages in the traditional sense are going to go away. And I think the virtual teams and virtual real estate is going to be the next wave of how we do business. And then teams within that structure is going to be the way real estate's ran, because I think that you can get more done as a unit, like in the military. You know, there's one army or one military, and then within those militaries, they have different, you know, subsections of teams, if you will, or in the Army, they call it platoons. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a team leader and you've got a platoon guide and all these different things. And you can just get more accomplished by dividing the one big overarching goal down to smaller goals, so that, you know, you have a specific mission and you can go out and accomplish that mission. And I think that's the structure that real estate is going towards, because I think that you can just get more done when everybody's all on the same page, rather than each bunch of individuals just running around trying to figure it out, you know?
Right. And
then with that, you've got somebody that's got your back, somebody that's looking out for you, you know, someone that's willing to step up if you can't be in two places at once. Mm-hmm. You know, you're all on the same page and everybody's working towards the same goals, you know? And I think once people can rally behind that kind of stuff, then you can definitely be much more successful, much faster.
Right. So the whole aspect of, you know, combining team and efforts and allowing people to leverage their strengths to go for the ultimate goal, which is sell more homes and make more money, right?
Exactly.
So when you chose Coldwell Banker, why'd you choose Coldwell Banker? Because obviously, so like we've seen a huge shift, as you just said, in how real estate's being done. And a lot's changed in those 8 years from the technology side of things.
Right, absolutely.
Like the cloud is widespread. I mean, there were times where you would want your CRM installed on your computer, and now that's like completely unheard of. Why would you just log in via a browser? So different, totally different business landscape. Why did you choose Coldwell Banker then?
Well, it's funny, I didn't actually choose Coldwell Banker.
Oh, really?
So when we got bought out, I did have an opportunity to leave if I wanted to,
Yeah.
at the very beginning, but my broker, encouraged me to stay, because he was like, trust me, got this handled, just know that you can trust me on this. And so I did. And, before I decided to develop a team, it was great, and I didn't know what I didn't know at that time, because I was pretty new in the business. I'd only been in for a year and a half. And so I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so, I just dug in and tried to keep figuring out the whole real estate business. And, for someone who's driven for success, then you're always going to try to find, what is best for my business and the way that I operate. And so I just kept moving forward, trying to figure out what it is that I felt that I needed in my business. And I didn't necessarily go out and look for the tools that may or may have not been provided through my brokerage. I just felt like it was one of those things where it's like, here's your desk, here's your keys, figure it out. And so I figured it out. For some people, that's just, they're not a figure it out. You've got to show me what I need to do, and then I'll do it. And I think that for a lot of people, that's the case. Like, you're like, I'm trying to figure out my business. I'm trying to grow my business, but I just don't know what to do. And I don't know where to get the information, and it's funny because a lot of people that I've talked to, even in recent years, they're like, I tell them, like, there's podcasts out there that have a lot of information that'll help you grow your business. And they're like, still for some people, what's a podcast?
Right.
and then I'm like, there's an app on your phone that came with your phone that's always been there, the little orange square or the little purple square, and they're like, huh? Oh yeah, that, I didn't know what that was. And it's been on your phone the whole time, and so it's just hilarious, because then you're like, yeah, there's a wealth of information out there that's out there for free, and as soon as they hear free, their ears perk up and they go, huh, I guess I'm gonna have to check that out, and so I just started doing that, and when I got my first iPhone, of course, I'm slightly techie myself. And so I would just dig around and figure out what some of this stuff was. And then I'm like, oh, podcast, huh? And then I started listening to a bunch of real estate stuff. And then that's kind of how my mind had been expanded from, this whole like local universe that I had, which is, I felt like that was my only source of information, to, there's real estate in other states too. Oh, they do real estate this way. Huh, interesting. And so that just kind of got me to where, I was like, man, I was on this quest to figure out what exactly is the best strategy when it comes to running a real estate business. And so one of the things that, I came across was EXP. And I didn't really come across it. They had come to where we live. And so I was just kind of curious about it. I didn't really dig into it too much. There's a gal on my team who had started there. She left. She came to Coldwell Banker.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so now she's back at EXP. And so I just drilled her for a bunch of information. And then and so I got more curious as to, what's this all about? Is this a traditional brokerage with the same name as everything else? And so then I finally got to a point where I was like, well, let me dig into this a little bit more. And then, I kind of just been wrestling with this idea of leaving. And then I ran into the guy that sponsored us on, and got a hold of him, and we just, and he just kept drilling me. And I was just like, okay, fine. I mean, he hard sold me, and so I was like, all right, well, let me, then he sent me this video, and that was the end of it right there. I watched the video, and then I couldn't sleep at night, because I was just like,
you're calculating.
Yeah, I'm calculating, I'm doing the math. I'm just trying to figure out, and then my next biggest hurdle was, could I work from home?
Right.
And so for a lot of people, that's their biggest drawback to deciding whether they want to try something different, or, you know, they have to have an office to go to.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things that I did for myself was I created a really, really work environment to where, like, I got my desk in there. I put office carpet, like commercial grade office carpet in there. So it smells like you're going to the office. You know, I set it up as if it was like in my office somewhere else. You know, so it's very, very, gives me that feeling of like I'm leaving the house and I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And so that gets me in that work mindset. And, you know, and I'll tell you, there's just so many benefits once you kind of get the right mindset of working from home. It's a lot more convenient. You're already there most of the time. You know, if you forget something, you just like, oh, you just run upstairs and go get it, you know, like
Right. Yeah.
instead of having to waste all this time driving back and forth to work and back and that. And, you know, I think that, you know, you can be much more focused on income producing activities when you're working from home, I think.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that in the last episode with remaining distraction free. And like your office setup, it looks exactly how your old office looks, which is great.
Right.
I mean, it's like kind of identical. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
In the same spot.
So like definitely knowing, you know, what works for you is important, and kind of being realistic with, you know, your expectations, I guess, because if you can't work from home, that doesn't mean it needs to be the drawback and you're like, oh no, I can't do it. And this isn't like designed to be an EXP recruiting podcast or anything, but you know, if that's like something that you need to work through, then I would just rent an office space if the numbers still make sense. You know, that's one of my goals in 2019 is to get an office space where I can just go and I can leave my house and I can like just zone out and do my thing. And that'll be really beneficial for me, which is kind of why I'm like trying to just change everything. Because after a year and a half, I'm realizing that, you know, what I currently have is great and I'm lucky to have it, but it's just not working for me. And that's cool. And I just got to find something else that works. So yeah, that kind of with the working from home thing.
Well, and it's about yield, you know, how could you yield the most out of what it is that you're doing currently and not having to add anything else, you know? So
Right.
if you're in a model that, you know, they're giving you all the tools and all the training and all the things that you're needing to be uber successful,
Yeah.
you know, and you're getting more, if you can get more somewhere else than where you're currently at now, then, you know, then for doing the same business, then it might be conducive for you to change. Now,
Yeah.
for some people, it's not about the money, it's not about the training, it's not about that, it's about the routine. And if you've been doing the same routine over and over and over again, and the stress of changing would not be beneficial to your mental stability, I guess, if you will, in order to show up at work all the time and do the things that you do and that you love to do.
Yeah.
And the people, you know, for some people, it's the people that you're around. You know, it's like, yeah, I could go somewhere else, I could make more money, but I just love the people that I'm around, you know. But if you were to talk to any business person and they were to, you know, say, well, what is the recipe for a successful business? And it's, you know, well, whether I pass or fail, I love the people. Well, that's not smart business, in my opinion. I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, I really love what I do, but it doesn't make me any money. Okay, so then you either have to reformulate how you're currently doing it into a way that that can make you self money, or you have to change your environment. And change, I think change in and of itself is crippling for people.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I just can't fathom any kind of change because I would just die, you know?
Yeah. Well, like Ty Lopez kind of talks about it, adaptability. Like that is the one character trait that will make or break someone. How well can you adapt to a new situation or a change in your environment? And it's interesting that you kind of talk about, like we were talking about years ago when you first got your iPhone, you had the podcast and you're like, ooh, what's this thing? And it still exists and it's bigger than ever, and it's a wealth of information that's totally free from like people like you, myself, and everyone else who's just like a normal person who has information they can put out there. It's kind of like I'm learning with EXP. There's this huge support group that you have instant access to, and people can provide you with so much information and so much support on stuff that you've never even heard of before. And it's like, it's all right there, but it's making that change and understanding that, hey, I need to change what I'm doing a little bit, adapt to this new way of running business, and then leverage that and actually get what you need out of it.
Right. And it's the social networks that we have now that you can leverage off of the time that they've already done.
Yeah.
And
so, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say that you can build your business off of other people's experiences so that you can, leverage time and money and effort much faster by, basically living vicariously through other people's already experiences. And then you can adapt those things to yours, and you can continue to increase even faster.
That's actually a great segue into mentors. Do you recommend one, especially if you're a new agent? But even if you're an established agent, what about mentors?
Yeah, every highly successful person has either had a coach or a mentor in their life.
Yeah, right.
I had a mentor, early on that had genuine concern for my ability for success. And then for a short period of time there, we were actually on the same playing field for a while. He was my broker at one point, and then he stepped down for a period of time and was just an agent. And we were actually, we shared an office for a while, and so it was kind of cool because we were able to, glean information off of each other in order to make ourselves better. So,
yeah,
I think that's huge. And I would also say too, is coaches, you got to be careful with coaches. I think coaches are a really good idea, but if they're not, if they're just annoying than they are being helpful, then you don't need a coach. You're not ready for a coach yet.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I was just listening to a podcast the other day is that in order to be successful, you have to be coachable, which is the ability to adapt the things that you're learning, immediately, not when it's convenient for you, but immediately. Right. And if you're not ready to be coachable, then you don't need a coach.
Yeah, I think, I don't know the player exactly. I want to say it was Michael Jordan, but they interviewed his coach and they were like just asking about Michael Jordan, and, he's this great player and, legendary. And his coach said like the one thing that made the biggest difference was his coachability. I mean, you tell the guy something and he goes out and he does it, and he's not like, he doesn't have his own stigma. Like, no, I got this, man. I'm really good. I know what I'm doing. He's like, okay, you have input for me, and I'm going to go implement that, and I'm going to get even better because of it.
Right.
So yeah, coachability is like huge for success, especially like the high level success, not the kind of success that pays the bills and you go to work every day and that's that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And those guys, outside of their regular coaches, also had personal coaches.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. So like coach from like multiple angles. It's not just like taking one source of information. It's you digest all of your advisors. What are they telling you? I think it's Think and Grow Rich, I want to say, where he talks about like you select your favorite mentors, dead or alive, and you put yourself in a room with them and you just hear what they're talking about and you hear what they're saying, and then you digest all that information and implement based on what they had to say.
Yeah, and I think also masterminds kind of fall into that. Or groups of highly successful people that you can glean information off of, because some of these guys have perspectives on life and on business that just completely blow your mind. That's not just the same fundamentals. Well, if you work hard and you surround yourself with other employees that want to do stuff, then you'll be successful. That's not true. And sometimes they don't give you the blueprint, and this is a lot of so if you're hearing, your coach telling you the same cliche type stuff where it's just like, well, if you just get up in the morning and you work hard and you do that all day, like it kind of sounds like Obama, like this is the problem. What you need to do is you need to get up in the morning and you just look at yourself in the mirror and you just tell yourself that you're awesome. And if you're not, then that's your fault, and then you can get up and you just do it all day long and you'll be successful, like that. Like, so I think that it comes down to like, are they, truly care about what it is that your success, like, people that go to church, and that just go on Sundays because they just go because they feel like they have to, versus those that are actually learning about their spirituality on a regular basis and they're doing the fundamental things that, that make them grow internally, versus you're showing up because it's Sunday and it's just what we do. Well, that's not the way that you're going to become the next level in that, So like if you're applying that to your business, if you're just getting up and going to work because that's just what you do, rather than, going through all the fundamentals of the things that if you just do these fundamental things will make you successful because you're doing the fundamental things. It's like when you were a kid and you were getting ready to learn how to read, you had to learn phonics first. A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y, all those things, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You had to know what those alphabet numbers were in order to eventually know how to read. You can't just go and just be like, well, if I just learn how to read by reading on day one, or pretending to read by trying to like mimic what other people are doing without actually learning how to fundamentally how to do it,
right?
Then you're never going to learn how to read. If you didn't know that 1 + 1 was 2, you just kind of were like, well, is it 4? Well, is it 8? Is it 1? And just guess and just kind of like BS your way through it. You're not going to win, and I feel like sometimes coaches want you to jump to reading and then be like, well, did you read today? Well, dude, I don't know how to read. So what's the fundamentals of reading first? Then let's build on that and then make me a better salesperson,
right.
Or they're like, well, did you make your calls today? Well, I don't know how to make calls. Okay, well, did you give me a script? Well, no, we don't give scripts here. We just rah, rah, rah in the background. Well, that's not a good coach. A good coach is, we're going to role play. What area of your business do you want to spend the most time on? Do you want to work on expireds? Do you want to work on withdrawals? Do you want to work on FSBOs? Do you want to work on cold calls? Do you want to work on farming? Whatever that is. Okay, and now we take the farming and we break that down into, okay, what area of that farm or is it that you want to work on? Do you want to work on, a certain price point? Do you want to work on homes of a certain age? Do you want to work on a certain geographical area? What is it that you want to farm? And so if you don't know, if your coach isn't helping you guide you in this way and they're just kind of a cheerleader, then I don't know if that's going to build your business, because you can find a friend or someone that's already in the business in your local area. You two can bounce off of each other on, what is it that we're going to encourage each other to do this week, and then hold each other accountable for that. And you don't have to pay a couple grand a month for that,
Right.
You can make the couple grand just by encouraging each other to be successful. So.
Yeah. So obviously mentoring is good, big importance. Coaching as well within any kind of choosing your brokerage. I used to think that the technology would be a really big deal, but I'm kind of learning that, these people do provide technology and that's great. Some of it sucks. And I don't think you should limit yourself to what is given to you, right? Like that's additional and that's great, but definitely like expand and kind of see what else is out there. One of the reasons I joined EXP was for their tech, but I'm learning that their tech is good, but what I had before is actually still a little bit better. and it's combining the two. You know, it's not just like casting away everything.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems you run into is a uniform ecosystem. And, you know, I also think too that, you know, like we have this program that's all that we can use for building our contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did was I learned that system to the best that I could learn it, even though it sucked. But over time, you know, my thing was, I was like, I just don't want to learn another system. You know, I don't want to learn another system because I know that the one that I have is as simple as it's going to get. Unless they can, you know, I can push one button and it's going to write the contract for me. But outside of that, like, you know, it's going to be pretty tough to compete once you get to know a certain system. And for me, it's like, you know, if the newer system or another system is just redundant of what this other system already does, you know, then I'm kind of on the fence, because I'm like, yeah, even though it might integrate a little bit better on this side, it might do a little bit of this on this side, but when someone says, hey, I want to write a contract right now, you know, then it's going to be much faster for me to do it the way I've always done it with this other system. Because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can write a contract in 15 minutes. I don't know if there's really another system out there that can make me do that much faster, you know? And so that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm just like, okay, well, if it's not faster and it's not more efficient, it's just different, then I don't know. So there's no reason to change. But, you know, but on the other side of it, it's like, okay, if this other system is going to save me a significant amount of money, if there's a money piece to it, well, then that might make sense. Yeah. But if I'm spending more money to just be just slightly more efficient, then it might be worth my time to learn another system. Because, you know, when you're looking at economics of scale, you know, you want to be able to produce more to lower your expenses, you know? And so, you know, if you can't produce any more and you're having more expenses, well, then that just doesn't make sense. Like that's just, it's worth me investing some more time into something else to learn how to be more efficient and save more money, so I can use that money to grow my business rather than just to spend money for the sake of spending money.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because like you can get so lost in tech. One of my first clients I had, which was a phenomenal learning experience, he was trying to do he was constantly trying to pick a new system for his brokerage, because there are all these stupid features that keep coming out, and like you're just nitpicking everything. And it's like, dude, we got to sit down. We just got to pick something that works and then just like go with it, you know, not constantly looking to change things. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, he was spending like 20 hours a week figuring out redundancies within systems he already has or has used. And it's just like, it pisses off his agents because they're constantly having to change systems. And it's actually pretty ridiculous. So yeah, the whole thing was just like, yeah, you don't like technology is important. And I think it's interesting, because you talked to me 2 months ago, I would have had a different response, but I don't think it's actually the most important aspect when choosing a brokerage, because you just can't limit yourself to that stuff.
And I think if you're just getting into the business, you know, almost every podcast I've ever listened to and people I've talked to, they're like, if you don't have a CRM and the company that you work for is providing you with these tools, then just use their tools.
Yeah.
There's always ways if you decide not to use their tools, to do something else. Now, if the tools that they provide aren't doing the things which is fundamental, which goes back to the fundamentals of your business, you know, like there's automated follow-up tools and things like that. So if they're filling a void that you can't fill, and the CRM that they provide you with the brokerage isn't fulfilling that, then you definitely need to search for a different CRM, because there's tons of CRMs that will automate these follow-ups for you. But so you either can do this. So a lot of people say, okay, the first thing you need to do to scale your business is you need to hire an assistant. The second thing you need to do is you need to have a system for follow-up. So with your system for follow-up is, you're the follow-up person. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have the mental space to follow up, then you have two options. You can either, well, three actually, but two are kind of the same, is automate your follow-up through technology, or you hire an ISA, or you hire a VA. So those are your three options. So four of them, if you really want to get technical, technology,
and then the two types of people.
and then the two types of people.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there you go. And if
Yeah.
you're not getting that with your CRM, or if your company doesn't provide a VA or a ISA, which there are brokers out there that have in-house ISAs.
Yeah.
And so, so if you can't fulfill any of those roles, then you need to shop around, either for a new brokerage or for a new CRM. So.
Yeah. So that resource that we're going to include in the link just below somewhere in the description. So I haven't really used it. So why don't you just go over kind of like what it is, how they use it, and just a quick synopsis, so they at least have some sort of guidance.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, it's a basic spreadsheet. All the instructions on how to place the different numbers in the fields are at the top, and then at the bottom you just plug in the numbers. And you can, if you're trying to compare two different brokerages, you can plug in the numbers on one and then plug in the numbers on the other side. You can compare the two brokerages. You can even add in extra ancillary costs. Like, let's say it's just, well, if I do $5,000 worth of advertising on my own, what does that look like?
Yeah.
So then you can compare the two brokerages, and then at the bottom, it will tell you the net costs on each side. So you can do a average sale price, average commission, average splits, average extra costs. You can compare the two brokerages, and then it'll tell you what you'll make on each side of the transaction. So
okay. So I mean, it's basically just a numbers comparison.
Yeah, it's two comparison. It's basically just, but it has it all labeled in terms of like all the different categories and stuff. You just plug in the numbers and it'll tell you exactly what the difference is between the two,
Cool. Yeah. So if you guys want to go check that out, definitely recommend it. Just another resource to help you make an informed decision. Actually, I'm a numbers person. I like to see it right then and there, and that'll help you do that. What I think the biggest points here is not just jumping into something without doing the research. And before you even do the research, you need to know what you want. So you're going to need to do a little bit of soul searching, kind of figure out what's actually important to you, what are your goals, and how are these brokerages going to help you fulfill that? And then go answer those questions for each brokerage, and then just break it down, see what works and see what doesn't, and make your decision that way. Cool. That's about all I got. You have anything to add there?
Just lastly, if you do a business plan before you start picking a brokerage, you can hammer out a lot of these details. If you go to Tom Ferry's website, he's got a lot of free tools there. Yeah. And he has got a good business plan that actually goes through the expenses. What's your big why? Why is it that you're even doing real estate? Mm-hmm. And then it's got where you think you're going to find your business, because a lot of people don't realize what it is that they're getting themselves into, and they sign up and somebody says, hey, you'd make a good realtor. Yeah, well, you don't know what you're signing up for, dude. So you should probably go there and download this tool for a 2019 business plan and see all the different categories of the things that you're getting yourself into. Yeah. And then you can fill those in, and it goes through what your costs are going to be, where you think you're going to find your business, who you're going to talk to, where are you spending your money now, what is your expenses that you're spending things on, and then you can kind of figure out exactly how that looks, and then use that brokerage comparison tool, and you'll be more than prepared to jump into the world of real estate.
Excellent. There you go. How can people reach you, JP? I know you have a coaching program. What kind of services?
Yeah. So right now, what I'm doing is just a 30-minute free coaching call. You can just call me 307-772-1184. We can talk about some of these things that we talked about today, or on any other of our podcasts. And or you can reach out to me at james.fluellen@gmail.com. And if you can't remember any of that, just Google me. You'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, Twitter, So I'm out there. If you can't find me, then you're not looking. So
it's a good thing. Yeah, guys, if you want to reach out to me, just go through this page, Success Agent, or you can just find my personal Facebook profile, shoot me a little message. That's cool too. Alternatively, you can shoot me an email at chris.successagent@gmail.com. And that's what we got for you. Looking forward to next week. I don't have my planner out, so I don't know exactly what the topic is, but looking forward to it anyway. JP, as always, we'll talk to you later and have a good New Year, man.
all right, man. You too. Deuces.
See ya.